Welcome back. All right, so some news of the day for all you fine people on the internet for Thursday, July the 25th, as we're a little over a month after the Stanley Cup came to an end. Travis Konecny signs an 8-year extension with the Philadelphia Flyers. So he was entering his final year of his contract, and so now they don't have to worry about him, re-signing. He's re-signed. $8.75 million cap hit. And honestly, I think that's perfectly fair for Konecny. I think that's some good bookkeeping there by the Philadelphia Flyers, as having added Michkov and getting a little bit of, I don't feel like the rebuild is over or anything going into this season, but there's some excitement. There's some excitement with Michkov in the future, and Konecny's a big part of that future as well. He's in his prime right now, and with the 8-year extension, which begins next year, he's going to be a Flyer for a very long time to come. Patrick Laine. So his trade speculation continues to be out there, and I'm not reporting on it every day because I don't think there's that much to report. The reality is he's still in the player assistance program. So Don Waddell saying that they still know that he wants out via his agent, and that they feel like he'll probably be out of the program soon, again, via his agent, because they can't talk to him directly. And that they may end up trying to talk to him about potentially staying. And Don Waddell saying that all options potentially could be open, even though he'd like to get traded. There's speculation that maybe Washington's in because Washington gets that cap space with Kuznetsov's contract being terminated. But even then, adding Laine, it's pricey. And so we'll see what happens with Laine and whether or not he gets traded this summer. It's a tough contract to trade. He hasn't played up to that contract over the last while. Yes, he's missed a lot of time as well. So we'll see what happens with Laine. But at this point in time, he's Columbus property. I would think that the sooner he is, taken out of that program, and of course, as long as he is 100% okay and ready to do so, the sooner that he can come out of that program, the sooner that likely we'll see either Waddell works things out with him and talks him into sticking around for a while, or we see some sort of a trade take place. A lot of talk about Jeremy Swayman right now and what's going on with Swayman and why didn't the Bruins have a handshake agreement with Swayman. Swayman also decided not to go back to arbitration. He went to arbitration last year. Eventually, the award is granted, but he said that he heard things a player should never hear. And so he really genuinely didn't want to go back to arbitration this year, didn't try to take the Bruins back to it. And so it's just kind of stuck out there right now. The speculation is it'll probably be about a $9 million cap hit, but it depends on term. It depends on a lot of things, really. Is he going to try to get a no trade or a no move clause, and is that going to bring the cost down? So we'll see. But it definitely sounds like last year's arbitration process was unpleasant to the point where he says, yeah, no, I'm out. Stan Bowman taking over, of course, in Edmonton was the big news yesterday, and I kind of let that one breathe and went off and did other things on the Entertainment Guy channel as well yesterday. But Bowman saying his top priority is getting Draisaitl signed to an extension. And this is where, if you look at the contracts Bowman signed in Chicago, they were pricey. He was not shy about giving out money. And with Draisaitl rightfully is going to be demanding a lot. So this is the first test to see whether or not he can play hardball just a little bit. It's that fine line, right? You want to play a little bit of hardball and make sure you're getting a team-friendly deal on some level, but you also don't want to make a superstar player like Draisaitl feel like he's being lowballed. So that's where things get tricky. We'll see how that extension turns out. Leon was very, supportive of the idea of getting an extension, of course, during the Stanley Cup final run. But the longer we get away from that Stanley Cup final run, maybe things change. Maybe the player thinks, you know what? Yeah, I mean, we got all the way to the final, but how much money could I make next summer? I don't begrudge players for wondering how much money they can make on the market and deciding to go to market. Like this idea that player contracts, well, really, the player's greedy, so that big contract's their fault. I mean, and the example I always use is if you go into work and ask your boss for your pay to be tripled, and your boss goes, okay, then the boss okayed it. If you got it, great. Kudos to you. The boss should have known better. So if the boss is coming out later about how I'm losing all kinds of money, well, maybe you shouldn't keep giving out triple the money, right? So that's the example I've always used. Is it a perfect example? No, of course not. And then this generated some buzz yesterday, so I'll talk about it a little bit today. I do think that some people are overblowing this a little bit, but I think this is the long-term plan. So Suns owner Matt Ishbia who also, you know, has, I believe, ownership of the WNBA team there as well, saying that he wants hockey back in Arizona. So seeing the big picture and believing that, you know, hockey can thrive, he would like to get a new arena at some point to replace Footprint Center, which is a little past 30 years of age. And he won't comment on whether or not he's had talks with the NHL, and the NHL's not commenting either. My guess is it's very preliminary. My guess is that at some point in time, either the NHL reached out to him or he reached out to them. The NHL, I think, understands that part of what failed with the Coyotes this time around is that they had an owner that people just didn't trust. Locals didn't trust him. Local politicians didn't trust him. And if you get somebody who's got a proven track record, who also owns the NBA team, who says, you know what, I wouldn't mind having the reins of bringing the team back to Phoenix, I could see it happening. I'm not saying whether or not it would be successful or how successful, but keep in mind the timeline that I think the NHL is going to go with, which is we'd see 2 teams in 2030, and then maybe 2 teams 5 years later, 3 years later, something like that. If you're looking to, say, 10, 11 years from now, then this absolutely makes sense. So I don't think there's going to be a short-term, okay, they're going back to Arizona. I think it'll be a long-term thing. And yeah, I would think that all the proper routes are going to be taken this time. And if you have an owner that knows how to work with the local government, local media, and get things done, I think that would go a long way. Alex Morello, clearly, while he had the money, he didn't seem to have the trust. And so maybe in this case it would work. So I did see the comments and the conversation regarding this and thought I'd weigh in a little bit. I don't think it's a big deal. I think it's great that the owner of the Suns wants to support hockey coming back to the desert and believes it should. I don't see any reason to think that he's lying about that. But I also think, you know, being realistic, it's going to take some time. But anyways, there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe in the event that you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.